Let's go back to sharing screen here.
Little bit extra here. All right, so we're recording it. I'll add it as part of like a 3.1 or something, or 4.1. So something came up about WMIC in the chat. So Mick is going to discuss the WMIC and accessing it over a remote connection.
So WMIC is a tool that allows you to run WMI commands on remote machines. The thing that's cool is for WMI to work, all you need is port 445 enabled or open between the hosts that are running them. And this is a real quick rundown on how to do WMIC and how to interact with it. WMIC is the command line interface for WMI, and you can learn about it using the /?. And as you can see, there's a wide variety of options that you have, particularly to our discussion at hand right now is this process. And the way you learn, or this process command, and the way you can learn about this particular object is you go WMIC process /?. And this process call is the one that you use to actually start a process, or process create too is how you can interact with a process. So WMIC and in this case we see that process call create actually allows us to invoke particular commands. So you can do WMIC process call create and now we have Notepad running. And just to prove that it actually is running, let me kill off our notepads that are visible. Go into Task Manager. Should have a notepad running, but I don't. Of course I don't, because demos. Let's try that again. There we go. Oh, I just killed off the notepad. I'm very sorry. So that's how you go about invoking a program using WMIC. Now, if you want to run this command on a remote machine, you need to use one of the other options for WMIC that we flew by, and it's this one, /node. By the way, for those of you who are like, holy cow, how is Mick flying through all this WMIC stuff? I've been doing a lot of work with WMIC since Windows XP. I find it a really arcane and punishing thing, which for whatever reason I find very interesting. So maybe that's what we can call the section, WMIC plus PowerShell or whatever. So this node allows the server alias. Did I draw on caves back then? Ha 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 ha. Believe it or not, one of my students today was really cheeky, and he was like, Mick, I mentioned that I was doing some computing on Windows 2, and he was like, Mick, did you swim when Noah's Ark was around? And I was like, no, and he's like, oh. I was like, man, it's horrible.
Young punks.
I know. No respect for the elders. So what you're going to do with this WMIC command is you're going to put in this /node and colon. And you can actually invoke it on your local machine like so. You can do it by IP address. You can also do it by fully qualified domain name. And let me close out my notepad. And if I get lucky here, and the demo gods are kind for a change, Notepad comes back. And now, if you need to run this command on a remote computer that your particular user that you're logged into doesn't have permissions, you would do user and then your username here. So you would actually put in your username, and then it would prompt you for your password. So that's how you go about doing this. So note that we were able to launch Notepad. Using a similar setup, we can actually call in PowerShell. So let's kill off our PowerShells.
So, Mick, is there any kind of special setup or configuration that has to be done for WMIC to work remotely like that?
No. So WMIC. So let's back up a second. WMI has been available in Windows for 20 years. I mean, it actually predates Windows XP. WMIC was first available in XP, and it's been extended over time.
Right.
Okay. Noob question. How do you determine where the executable ran from given the hash after its name? Oh, great question. So, Yvette, I'll answer that in a second after we get this PowerShell thing going here. In this case, boom, PowerShell's running. Hey, you know what? Hey, Brian, I got a weird request. Can we make really short sessions, and then every video will be just bonus material? Because apparently bonus material demos work so great.
We probably could do that. Yeah, I don't see it. Splicing them together would be a pain in the ass. But
I wouldn't do that to you, amigo. I think
okay.
there's some people that actually love to see me suffer and have demo fail after demo fail. So, noob question, but how do you determine where the executable ran given the hash after its name? And then, okay, sorry, Yvette. We're going to put your question on pause because this is a great question. So using WMIC, could you start the remote PowerShell service? Yeah, I suppose you could. I would hope that you would do something like that with GPO or SCCM or some more enterprisey config management tool. You certainly could do that. Usually I'm doing the PowerShell approach as a quick and dirty way to get things going and running. The less you ask systems administrators, the better, though. You know what? If that's the case, you need better sysadmins. Boom. Shots fired. Mick is thrown down. So that's kind of it about WMIC. If there's any other questions about that, now's the time to ask them, because I want to go to Yvette's awesome question about the hashes. No? All right. So, yes. Can you use WMIC to run on a list of computers from a text file? You most absolutely positively can. The way you do this is, this took a lot of research. It's since been posted on TechNet. Yeah, Yvette, hang tight. We'll get there. At least you got a good sense of humor about it. So thanks for being cool. With WMIC, this node, you can actually specify different options. And this right here is the big takeaway. What you do is you create a text file. And on that text file, you are going to have one IP or one fully qualified domain name for each machine that you want that command to work through. Now, one thing that you can do, if you're part of a domain, you can do net user /domain. Actually, no, you don't want to do that because that's going to give the users. Really, the safest way to do this, now that I think about it, yeah, I wouldn't programmatically generate that file because you don't necessarily want your WMI script to be running on every machine, on every machine. So what you should do is either using Nmap or some other tool, develop a list of IP addresses or fully qualified domain names of the systems that you want this to run against, validate that it's the right one, and then machine by machine, you'll have it listed. I can actually make a real lame demo here right now. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to run a command 3 times by looping on myself. This is a very odd approach to doing it, but I just want to show here's how you would go about doing it. So what I'm going to do is cause notepad.exe to happen 3 times because it's going to loop through each machine, and because I'm pointing to myself each time, it's going to fire up Notepad. So instead of the IP address, you actually do the file name. So in this case, like that, hit enter, and if all went well, of course, demo fail. We at least got one. Let's hack something here. Let's see if I can get 2 started by calling my machine by name and the loopback IP. Yeah, we done fooled it. We got 2 notepads. Yay! So that's how you would go about doing it. You call either the fully qualified domain name or the IP address. So that's how you would go about listing, doing it off of a list of computers. Bill, awesome question. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for the great question. Okay, now it's the moment of truth. Yvette, I don't care what anybody else asks at this point. We're going to answer your question. So, yes, hooray indeed. Here's the deal. Hashes are one-way functions, so we won't be able to determine necessarily where that came from based off of the hash itself. That's where the parsing of these prefetched files are. And that's why it's nice to be able to parse them. Because inside the parsed prefetch, let's go to the where's my inside the prefetch entry, it will actually show this, among other things. It will actually have the file path as one of the items listed. And this is handy. The hash for the path is a quick way for you either programmatically or visually to tell that it's a different executable that was run, meaning it was maybe a copied version of maybe PowerShell. Somebody took PowerShell.exe and moved it to a different directory, copied it and pasted it there and then ran from it. Because those hash values don't match, you can know with certainty that that particular prefetch indicates that it's a different executable, and then you parse it and you're able to pull the file fetch. I hope that, or file path. So again, great question, and thank you so much for the patience. So are there any other questions? These were awesome questions, gang.
5 seconds, y'all.
I've got a question. When you're using WMIC or the PowerShell remoting, and you use different credentials, are they cached on the system?
Ah, yes, they are. So yes, so this is a very interesting bit of tradecraft. There's a risk, actually, believe it or not, in using these methods. So if you believe a machine is compromised, when you do Windows PowerShell remoting, those credentials will be put into memory if you're concerned about Mimikat style attacks. So they will exist on the memory of that host. So best practices for incident response is to use an account for that analysis, whether it's WMIC or PowerShell. Use that account, and then once you've done that work, change the password immediately.
Excellent question.
Yeah, that really was.
Is there any way to is there any kind of setting that will reduce the amount of time if you don't want to make that reset?
What do you mean you don't want to make that reset? You
Well, you said
reset
you
the
have to-
password?
Yeah.
Oh, so what I like to do is I use purpose-built accounts like remote IR, like user account. It's not like a daily driver. It's only something that I like in case of emergency, break glass, use this account. So you know what? That's a really freaking good idea. I'm going to make a little bit of a like a tradecraft thing on doing that because that's that also is something that the forensics and IR people do that isn't necessarily immediately apparent. So
if you're blue team and you're using laps or something like that,
yep.
you could always use that, and that's a kind of a throwaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So laps, ships. You can also use a tool like CyberArk, for instance. I know this is a bold claim, but I'm thinking that in the fairly short term, like within the next 2, maybe 3 years, we're going to be using passwords hopefully in a very different way, at least in an enterprise environments. I fully expect us to be having one-time use passwords only because password cracking rigs are just simply too powerful. And if you can grab a hash, you're done for. These are awesome questions. So thanks, guys. I'm making a note about tradecraft of using accounts during IR.
Anything else from participants? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording again.